Turn our sights now to Capitol Hill and an urgent warning to Congress concerning NASA, China, and the race to conquer the moon. A number of experts testifying before a House subcommittee and alerting lawmakers that our nation's current standing as the world's top space power is in dire jeopardy. They also say that if we don't get our act together in the very near future, we could soon lose our edge to the Chinese communist regime. Now, according to one lawmaker, the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, has undertaken an international coordinated and strategic effort to compete with the U.S. space program, and that's now paying extreme dividends. Goes on to say that right now China is proceeding at a much more rapid pace than we are, and that their ultimate goal is to have complete dominance of the outer realms. In the meantime, the experts say there's a new real threat that China will actually land their astronauts on the moon and become the first country to set up permanent settlements there, and long before we have a chance to do it ourselves. They go on to warn that whoever establishes a colony on the moon first will wind up setting all the rules and protocols which follow, and that if China is the one to do it, the future of humanity right here on Earth, it's not going to pan out well. Also, according to experts, for America to succeed, the government must redouble their efforts and support both NASA and the private sector at the same time, and all while avoiding cumbersome regulations which could hamper any future innovation. Now, final thoughts, and this is the News Roundup Lowdown. It's good to know that China is an active participant in a critical, difficult to understand, almost impossible to comprehend scientific game called Follow the Leader. Davey, follow the leader?
Follow the leader, Bill.
Yeah, it is follow the leader. That country's communist regime under the expert tutelage of that handsome fella, Xi Jinping, is right now trying to do something we did more than a half a century ago. That's push a rocket off the pad, land on the moon, go for a walk, cruise around Moontown on their version of a lunar rover, and all while they take a long look at all those lovely U.S. flags that we planted way back when. My outer space amigo, astrophysicist, that handsome devil, Neil deGrasse Tyson, he's been clear that we've got to make a return trip to the big white rock, and for a number of reasons. And one of which is that he sees the moon as a stepping stone to make it to Mars and beyond. There's also this. Helium-3 is an isotope of helium that's rare on Earth, our home base, but there's a ton of it on the moon. They say it's a promising fuel for clean energy fusion reactors and is also needed for quantum computing applications. And by the way, because we were there first, on behalf of the USA, I'm calling dibs on the whole planet. And if China really wants to pop in for a landing, they'll need a permission slip from the White House and from the News Roundup crew. Now, Producer Davey, what you thinking? Is China going to beat us at our own game, or are they just trying to play catch-up? And I hope Pranav, our editor, is not putting up a bottle of ketchup. Are they trying to play catch-up?
It's not going to happen, Bill. Look, we set the mark by being the first on the moon. We're going to do it again.
Yeah, I think we will go back. Not in the very near future, but in time. The great American astronaut Neil Armstrong, the first man to walk on another planet, the moon, he said that's one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind. Although it sounded better when he said it. Editor Pranav the Magnificent. Cut 16, if we could, please.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
If China ever gets there, they can always say, we copied the USA and we deserve a second place trophy. No trouble at all.